Good evening. It is July 12th, 2022, and today, really, we were looking at a range day, but pretty big sell-off at the end of the day. So I just want to point out that the breakout to the high side of the overnight highs and lows is pretty closely matched by the breakout to the low side later in the day. It goes a little further to the downside, but I would guess that that is why buyers came in right here. Still ended the day down though. I think we opened up here and closed down here, so still a downward bias to the day. But I didn't really like many of the trades in here today, personally. I'll have to check out what Max said, but this is how I saw it. Not a whole lot. You come in early in the morning. I think 8 o'clock comes in right about here, and you get this failed second entry short. That's also, I mean, technically this is a third entry long, but it looks to me like one leg down, a second leg of correction. Very good signal bar. And I think you have to take that, and that's a good trade. If you don't take that, you get a failed second entry short right here, but I don't really like this one. It's not off a trend line. You have congestion right here. It's off the midline of the overnight highs and lows, so you might consider that. Let me zoom in. And so that takes us up here. We get some congestion again. And this is towards the opening, and prices just rocket on up. And I really like this personally. Even though we're in an uptrend, this is like a counter trend trade. We test these overnight highs once, and we test it again, and then it turns down. And you get a very nice bearish bar with like 5 points of space back to the EMA. So personally, I like that. Let's take a look at if you had a trend channel drawn like this. And if you have a trend channel drawn like this, I mean, that looks like a close outside and a move to a new high. And I just think if you're going to be aggressive, I think this is probably a good spot to be aggressive. Then we get a very clear break outside of this channel, and we get one leg, 2 legs up to a new high. You could even maybe argue for this to be the first leg, second leg, and then it reverses. But unfortunately, the reversal sets up right here, and just not a great place. It's above the EMA. It's congestive, so you don't want to take that. This kind of looks like a new high to me, but it's not. So we come down here, and you get a first entry, second entry, and I think that's worth taking, because even though the signal bar is not great, this had the feel of a range day. And we had this reversal up here. We broke through the EMA. We did bounce off the overnight highs, which probably trapped a lot of longs. So if you had a good signal bar there, I would mark that red, but my signal bar was no good. And then you get a second entry right here, but this one's congestive. But look, you can see this is pretty clearly a trend. But, and look, the congestion leads to a break. And that's why when prices are looking congestive like that, you might want to hold off. But we get a lower high here. You might jump in there if you like that. Oh, okay, yeah, it didn't even trigger below this one. So I like that because it's a lower high and it's smaller risk. And if you don't like that, you technically this is a failure right here, but look at all that congestion. You don't want to hop in on that. But the floor falls out. I guess all the longs realize we're not going higher at that point. And we break down into this range, this yellow range. First of all, I didn't point this out. I think a lot of people probably played this uptrend, but it was just a range day. We barely broke above the highs. I think it was like 10 points above the overnight highs, but it just had a range feel. Wasn't a strong trend. We bounce off the overnight midline here, But we just formed this yellow range. Looks like probably the opening price is what was holding prices. But yeah, this turned out to be an uptrend. But just the context, it wasn't really a strong uptrend. So yeah, so we have an overshoot of this channel. We have a break that leads to a couple legs down to a new low. Find support near the midline, and we bounce here. At this point, you don't know what's going on because we have this break of the channel, so you should probably just sit tight. Let me mark this one because technically this isn't a new low, but that looks like first entry, second entry. This kind of looks like a double bottom here. First entry, second entry, very bearish bar, but you have no idea that prices are going to bounce right there. So I'm not crazy about that one. There's a lot of room to the EMA though, and it's a rangy day. So, and yeah, it's just that's aggressive. We just bounced twice at the midline, so that's tough. This lower high is just right at the midline, so you can't really take that. And you can see forms a micro range right here, bounces and goes back to these highs, and you get this. And some people might have viewed this as a second entry because you get this first entry. It's just a hidden second entry, first entry, second entry. So if you might take that. There's reason to take that one. More reason to take this one than this one, I would say. But yeah, we're just flip-flopping. Get a second entry long here, but with prices just chopping people up, I wouldn't feel comfortable taking that. Maybe. Yeah, that's not, because we already had a close outside of that potential trend channel, so I don't think you're taking that. We come down here, we bounce, higher low, breakout, and you get, this is a second entry short right here. Actually, this is a second entry short, and you get this lower high. So you might take this. This looks pretty good, but I think when you get this matching high right here, and we didn't make it back to the EMA, I think a lot of sellers are going to come in right there. I like that one a lot. So I think you take that. It bounces off the midline, comes up here, first entry, second entry. You wouldn't have had this trend channel yet, so this is just a second entry off the midline of the yellow range, so you can't take that. But that forms this pink upward trend channel, and I don't think, yeah, you wouldn't have, that wouldn't be off anything. So I don't think you can take this. You might though. That's a double test. I'm gonna go ahead and mark that because that's a double test off the midline. You see, triple test. You see that we test it once, again. So really, it's like we form that price level here. First test, second test, triple test. So that's, you might take that. There's a room back to the EMA for a 1-point scalp. But yeah, we bounce, and when it bounces here, I mean, we already had confirmation of the pink channel right here. But then it bounces up here, so it looks like it might be a healthy trend up. But that, in my opinion, I was looking at as trapping longs. And you get this first entry, second entry. People probably bit that, went long there. Comes up here, makes a new high, comes a little short of that channel high. And then you get this lower high. That looks pretty good to me. That's like a second entry short up here. So it's a lower high. But really it's just a lower high back into the range is how I was looking at it. Failure comes right here, so that's too far away. You don't want to take that. Then we come down here, get a first entry, we get a channel break, but you get the second entry. I like that. I mean, we're going into this potential trend line low. But I mean, it's just a range day, so I like that to go short. And then we're just chopping around. And this is really a range, but I didn't draw it, but you can see. I mean, the range ended up being larger like this. But when it bounced right here, that's confirmation of this larger channel. So you get this first entry, failed second entry. You might take that. I marked that as blue, but that's below the E. I just accidentally did that. That's below the EMA. So I mean, this is tough right here. But I just like this really because of the trap that sets up. A lot of people probably going short here, even though we have a new low and it's congestive. And I just think that would trap a lot of longs. But really, they're just trapping everyone, chopping everyone up. And you get another failure right here, I think. But at that point, you know this is really congestive. And I just like to sit out at that point. Just going back and forth, nothing really good. No higher lows or lower highs. You get this spike and channel down. I don't see anything in here. Get a break of that. You can see we form this range up here. It's like a we break out of that to the high side, it fails. And then we form this channel down. And ooh, this looks like a second entry short. Actually, it is a second entry short. I like this. I really like the way this looks. I'm going to be honest. I mean, I have to mark this green because it didn't make a new high. But that one looks like a red to me because that's off the trend channel. That's confirming the trend channel. It's a second entry short. I like that one. And if you don't take that, you get a first entry, failed second entry right here, but that's going into the lows. Looks congestive too. Just not the greatest entry. Now we come down here and just form some a micro range, and then the floor falls out. We come down here, hit the overnight lows, go a little further. Let me draw this trend channel. So you can see, I would say that's about it. And you can see that's an overshoot that leads to a break. 1, 2 legs to a new low. And then you get a first entry, second entry, and I like that. Even though we just broke out to the low side, that's resistance at the EMA. I like that to test these, at least test this overnight low again. I like that. However, we did get a break of this channel, and yeah, I mean, you could argue that kind of looks like one leg down. It really does, actually. But yeah, this looks pretty darn good. I don't think you want to take this, even though it looks like it might be. Yeah, I don't think you want to take that. Looks like it is a channel, though. Get a break right there. That's a failure. First entry, failed second entry. And that's very congestive. And we're just below the overnight lows, so that's too risky. Come down here. If you see this, maybe this just sets up really well. I really like this. And you get a break. 2 legs to a new low. First entry, failed second entry. This looks pretty darn good to me. And it's clearly off of a trend channel, so that's the problem right there. That's the only problem, is that you're going into you're going into these channel highs. Also, what Mac says, he said something about you want it to shoot through the EMA on these reversals. So I'm going to mark that blue. Maybe he doesn't have it marked that way. But let's see. Let's see, maybe that's like, turns out to be a midline. No, not really. But that brings us into the close. I don't see anything in here other than that. So that's how I saw it. This is the first time I've done chart analysis in like a week. A lot more greens in there than when I started this video. But with me being on summer vacation, I'm going to be pretty inconsistent with these videos, but I'll do my best. So have a great evening.